It's live. Yeah. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to 2019. It's episode number 56 of SEO UnMasked. I'm January 17th of 2019. Glad to have you back with us for the new year. I'm Garrett Groff. Can you not hear me now, or what?
No, sorry, I went out for a second.
Oh.
When the YouTube stream started, it cut me off on here, but I've got it back. Hi everyone.
Yeah.
A couple of technical. It's only our third show using Hangouts instead of some other software, so I'm still confused.
Yeah, when you spread them out one episode a month.
I like this new cadence for the show. I think we should think about one a month is pretty good. Maybe two. I think 4 was too many. I might actually talk about SEO this week because I've had a break.
Yeah.
Well, I have to because we've got no Vin. Vin is sleeping.
Yeah, he's overworked.
Yeah, I think he said he did like 3 days work in 2 or something, and it's finished him off. So,
well, welcome to owning a business, I guess.
I was under the impression you already owned one.
Yeah, whatever.
Sorry, Vin, we're just ripping on you, man.
Yeah.
Get well soon. Get rested. Speak to you tomorrow. We got a Mitch Sharp on the line. Hi, Mitch. Great to have you on. Sorry for the slight delay starting. We were having, as you could tell, some Chrome issues.
I'm not sure it's a webinar. We do this every week, but anyway.
Well, we're going to talk about some SEO anyway,
yeah.
So I guess let's crack into the news. What do you got first for us, Garrett?
Oh, yeah. So if you haven't watched before, the show notes are in the video description. First up, a lot of these show notes are about a month old because we ended up not doing any. Didn't do a show before Christmas, earlier since Christmas, whatever it was. Anyways, Siege Media. This is one of Vin's links, I believe.
Nice to see one that isn't a Moz from Vin for once.
Yeah. He's Vin's not talking, but sorry, I can't remember this guy's name for some reason. Talking about, a lot of people plan their keyword research and strategy and on-page stuff around keyword volume. And this guy's making a case. Keyword volume's cool. Maybe how many clicks you get out of a certain query might be more important. I kind of have mixed feelings. He brings up stuff like the query best headphones, where if you've watched the show in the last year and a half, I have a hatred for review sites for the most part. I think a good one is very few and far between. He kind of brings up, actually, he doesn't even bring up this point. My point was going to be, there's a lot of people like me, like I can look at a #1 ranking and say that's definitely a review site just based off of the domain and the slug behind it, and I won't click it. But he makes a point that 69% of searches on best headphones get clicks, which is not bad for today's SEO landscape. I guess I could agree with that somewhat, because this isn't a local search where you could definitely argue that getting 69% of clicks on a local query would be fantastic before someone went through an ad or a map pack or anything else to get to an organic search result. But a query like this, I would assume that 70% of people are actually going to click a result, but maybe not. He also goes on to say that there's an average of 1.2 clicks per search. So some people, about 20% of people, are going back and clicking another result. doesn't actually say how many people are clicking number 1 or number 2 or number 3 or stuff like that, which I think may be important. And I guess really reading this now after I haven't looked at it for a month, it's more like him arguing like he's going to a client and saying, yeah, this search volume for best headphones is 71,000 a month, but if you have the number 1 spot, you should probably be getting 59,000 clicks or something. And I don't know, maybe. I don't think there's enough data to really back this up, but it's an interesting point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's going to be more important to think about this stuff as Google adds more of their weird search features, because some search results, it might look like it's got loads of traffic for, like, flight from Minneapolis to New York, but say if their flight search widget appears and takes 40% of the traffic, that might be less valuable than a lower volume keyword that you get all of the clicks for. I mean, that's probably not the best example, because if you're in the travel space, you're kind of just screwed anyway, because of the, it's hard to break through as a new brand. But just conceptually, as Google steals more of the traffic in some keywords and not others, it might be, if you're on a limited budget, better to target the ones where the clicks are more available to you, I guess. If that's what he means, then it kind of makes sense.
And like further, he has a graphic here from Ahrefs where just for best headphones, it doesn't include stuff like best wireless headphones, best Bluetooth headphones. So search, I might actually have this backwards. I might have screwed up. The search volume is 59,000, but there's 71,000 clicks on average per month. So I think my whole premise was backwards, actually. So I owe him an apology. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's talking about when people are clicking multiple results. So some of them, it was interesting because when we spoke to, who was it we spoke to now at Brighton SEO, that was telling us about Yahoo, where people tend to just click one result and that's all they look at. So Google gets a lot more multi-clickers than Yahoo. I forget who told us that now, but that was quite an interesting. The less sophisticated users on Bing and Yahoo tend to not click more than one result. Google's users tend to click multiple results per SERP. So I guess that if that's what he's saying as well, then it backs up the data. So we've got Jern Jernburn saying bonjour. So bonjour, Jern. It's great to have you on the show.
Oh yeah. Now I feel kind of bad because we've had these articles on the list here for like a month, and I have failed to actually reread them and remember what the hell is going on. But yeah, I think this is something definitely interesting to keep in mind.
So we got some 12 actionable tips for more image SEO organic traffic. Images are never something I've really given a toss about, but I had a quick skim of this one. It's talking about, the first thing he points out is that the old thing where you could put, you could just put up some generic image and put the alt tags you wanted on, and that's what Google would think it is, are kind of gone. And he shows some example of Google Cloud doing a pretty good job of identifying a picture of a cat. We also know some hilarious stories that have been in the press over the years of Google misidentifying things. Like it wasn't correctly able to identify African Americans, and they had to manually fix that and things like that. So clearly they're going in the right direction, but with some work to do. But there's going to be a lot of images that Google just knows what it is. So you're going to struggle to put a cat up and get any dog traffic. Why you'd want any, I don't know. But so he points out the AI stuff. A lot of it's similar to YouTube. If you don't want to just upload a file like video 1234567.mp4 to YouTube, you want it to have the same name as your episode, and so naming your images appropriately. So don't just upload camera 197mp blah blah dot png, rename it to my new black kitten. The usual stuff, the alt text and captions. I didn't really know it would look at captions particularly, but I guess with so many people using the same blogging software and the captions being all coded up the same way, it's going to be super easy for Google to read captions now. So that makes a lot of sense that having good captions is going to be useful. He waffles on about file types. I mean, I don't think anyone watching the show is going to be struggling to know what types of file they should be uploading to the web, but he shows you some different file types. And
some something I'm kind of lazy about it. I do compress images, I do resize them, but I'll just like generally compress them and then resize them down to like 1920 by 1080, and then stick them on WordPress. I guess number 4 is kind of a good point. Like, if that image isn't going to be used as a full screen image, it doesn't need to be 1920 by 1080. Like, I'm lazy. Size it back down to, like, if you have it inline in a post and it's only 300 by 200 pixels, like a standard WordPress medium size, whatever they resize it to, you might as well. But the argument that you're saving so much file space, I mean, if you're only taking up 100 kilobytes on that image and then you resize it down and it's like 40, I think most people have pretty decently fast internet where the load time between a 40 kilobyte file and a 100 gigabyte image is faster than you can think. So yeah, I don't know, there might be diminishing returns on it, but fair enough, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess some people still upload some absurd images to their sites, so don't do that. We got a question from Mitch. How aggressive can you get with alt text? I mean, I think it's going to be harder to put ridiculous alt text on than it was before if Google is starting to be able to tell what images are. But I would have thought if it knows it's a white cat and you wanted to say cheapest white cat as your alt text, that's going to be okay. If you want to say cheap cat food, it's maybe not yet able to tell that that's wrong, but at some point they're going to be able to tell there's no cat food in the picture. So my take on these things is always just to err on the side of not having to deal with some kind of penalty or fix later. So my preference is always to go low aggressive and stay really far away from the cliff. And so maybe adding the odd modifying word that you want to, without changing the accuracy of the description of the image would be fine. I wouldn't be putting cat food as the alt text on a random picture of a cat or a cat meme or something like that that's got no connection to cat food, because of the risk of having to go back and fix it later if Google gets smarter. And I think that's worked really well for us over the years, because other than the site which we deliberately spammed that we spoke about a few shows ago that Garrett got out of manual penalty after we bought like 17 packs of Sherlock Does Google. Other than that one site, we haven't had to go back and fix sites when things have changed with Google, because we've tried to stay away from being too aggressive with things that are going to be super easy for them to catch up with you on. So that's my answer. Probably you can be way more aggressive than that, but bear in mind, the more aggressive you are, the more fixing you're setting yourself up for later. So I don't like to do any fixing. And it's going okay so far and is not doing anything stupid. So we're trying to keep that up.
Yeah, pretty much the same way. I guess I don't see the need in 2018 or 2019 now to be super aggressive. It doesn't last long enough, and I like taking the slow route now, which I guess some people I already lost my train of thought.
Well, I guess it's
like I'm always a tortoise. Like, yeah, I can afford to spend more money over a longer period of time, or we both, we work on our projects together. But at the end of the day, I don't know. We always win because a lot of competitors every day they churn and burn sites.
I wouldn't say we always win. Sometimes we start like 20 sites and only actually do work on one of them. So.
Yeah, but I mean, like the ones that we're actually building right now, it's like how many in that health site that we're building? How many of those type sites have we seen burn with their link strategy? And it's like, yeah, we're still here. Just had a 90% increase in traffic last month, and you tanked from 40 to 10,000,
Yeah, I won't out who it is, but someone on Twitter was saying that they just built this PBN for a client, spent a year building it for like God knows what they charged, because they're someone who's known to be very expensive. And the brag was they've gone from page 3 to having some stuff on page 1. It's like, well, that sounds like a really good use of a year's worth of work and investment. And it might not even last 3 years or 5 years, the PBNs.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing.
Spent a year achieving not a lot that might not last. So it's the same really with everything. Jern's just asking, where's Vinny? Vinny is in bed. He did a full day's work today and it tired him out. So he's having a little rest.
And no, Chumley's is not calling. My keys are in my pocket.
I don't understand that, but excellent.
That's
those of you who don't understand any of the conversation, you need to be in the live show, watch it live. What time is it in America? This goes live, Garrett.
It's 6:41 in Minnesota Central Time.
Cool. So usually about 6 p.m. Central then. Jump on YouTube and watch live, and you can join in with the guys in chat. We've only got a couple on today. There's often a few people hitting us up with some fun comments. So jump on live. I know most of you watch it later though, so some of the conversation is probably a bit random. So Google, I saw this one on I think was Garrett's Search Engine Roundtable.
Yeah, so right before Christmas, Google came out and said, if you, let's say you're a web host, and I think we brushed on this right before Christmas. If you're a web host provider, and in your terms of service, you say if you're using our hosting service and you're paying us, you need to link to whatever we want. And Google's finally said, no. They don't come out and say web hosting, but anyone trying to do that contractually. It also happens with a lot of agencies that think they're really cool with niche edits and stuff like that, where they put clauses in saying you're contractually obligated to let us make content updates for the lifetime of your website, and that includes inserting links as we seem necessary, and blah 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 blah. And how good of a job Google will do just because it's in a contract. Google doesn't look at contracts, but at least they acknowledge.
I imagine they've found someone big that they've caught doing it, and they want to go after some of the big people. I mean, they seem to be not doing a pretty poor job on hack links. I'd like to see them do a better job catching these hack links.
Yeah, speaking of niche edits, oh man, there's this guy all of a sudden popping up on the Facebook groups, and I don't remember his name. I just remember his name's I would think is Russian, and he lives in Vancouver. And his headline on Facebook is, "If you've heard the term niche edits, send me a message thanking me." So I don't know.
There's some guy that's supposed to have invented it from Russia or something, and the last time these did a come around about 3 years ago, before it all got shut down on Black Hat World and stuff, there was a big argument about who owned the right to the name and who'd invented them, and that most of the ones that were being sold were fake. But I mean, I would argue it's all fake. But I mean, we saw some the other day where really interesting. What people are doing in the space is, so this guy had bought some niche edits from someone, and they all looked amazing when they came back. And then he looked back at them 6 months later, and 12 other links had been added to his competitors in the same articles that he had his original link.
Yeah, you have like a 500-word article, and there's 18 external links to 18 different plumbers across the country. Like, yeah, all right.
So yeah, it's makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think there are probably some big players that have this contractual link thing. I mean, there's one big player in the lawyer space, and I've not seen one single law firm choose to not link to them. That's not to say they're forced to. I'm just saying maybe that's an obligation there that's going to be affected by this. If it's not, there's 100 other examples in similar spaces where there are big software providers for all, not all, but many of the firms in the space. If you are a law firm paying lots of money to a certain provider and not getting a whole lot of leads about it from it, give me a shout and I'll point you. We don't do consulting anymore, but if you need links, obviously we can do them for you. But I'll give you some free help figuring out what you should do.
Remind me to bring up FindLaw during the main topic.
Well, I wasn't going to name them.
Well, I did. It's about to even. Yeah, it'll make more sense later.
Okay. We'll wait for your main topic on that then.
Yeah.
I don't know what this next one's about.
Well, just to follow up on the last article, a lot of the shade, like you go out and get 99 cents a month web hosting. You might want to read your terms of service and what you're contractually obligated to, because a lot of those shady, one of those too good to be true things, even though web hosting is phenomenally cheap these days, they're probably still making 2 cents a month off you at 99 cents. They're making their money by injecting links into your sites and selling niche edits for $20. And it's kind of like, a lot of, we've talked about it in the past. Feel free to watch some of the former episodes, but a lot of the people that sell niche edits all buy from a very small group of providers. And yeah, it's just...
I love the people that mark it up like 200% and sell the same ones. Yeah. It's like, I mean, it's great for that.
My cost to you is $15, but I'm going to charge you $169.
It's I got a lot of respect for them. That's some business hustle. Selling a $15 niche edit for $150 is pretty cool. So good job, boys. What was I going to say? Oh, Jason in the chat says everyone knows it's FindLaw. I was being too obvious. But I will say though, Jason would know. Say anything about that industry, and Jason would know who I was talking about. So maybe some people didn't. Maybe everyone did though.
Anyways, this Amazon thing, I don't know. This must have been one of yours. I don't
know. Yeah, probably. I just I like to share non-SEO news.
Due to an internal error, Amazon recently sent 1,700 Alexa voice files to an unauthorized customer. German computer magazine Satu details what happened.
Yeah, I mean, just more why you shouldn't put unauthorized recording devices in your house. I've been on a bit of a campaign against the smart home revolution. So this kind of stuff's just going to happen all the time when you've got 80 devices in your house monitoring everything you do. So rip all that shit out. And if you want to put a light on, get up and walk to the light switch and turn it on. It was actually interesting though. I was at a business event yesterday and they always have a community speaker, and it was a charity for to help like kids get out and run, because apparently some parents now are pushing their kids everywhere so much in their pushchair and never taking them walking or running that the kids are too lazy to even run in the playground and play with other kids.
Oh, Jesus.
And the parents are obviously so fat and lazy that they're beyond taking them for a run at the weekend. So it's they organize these events where the kids and the parents come along and run like 100 meters together. I mean, even a slob like me can make 100 meters. So I don't know what kind of state these people are in, but their point was just, how lazy we're all becoming with things like Alexa. Like, Alexa, turn the lights on. Like, Jesus Christ, how lazy are you? It's 2 seconds away to the lights on. So, and this is what you're giving up. You're giving up them recording you and just accidentally.
Yeah, I don't have any of the devices in my house. I honestly can't see myself really using them anyways. I guess I don't really know what people like. Okay, so people are using them to turn on the lights. Like, I don't know. Like, if you walk into a room, don't you walk right past the light switch? Or like, I don't know. If you need to look up a recipe while you're cooking, I don't know. It just seems.
Well, I mean, that guy on you remember the South Park episode with the that MMO or whatever game, the fat slob guy that was laying back in the chair. I think he could benefit from that. Yeah. Alexa,
make love, not Warcraft.
Yes, that was it. Alexa, order me a pizza. Alexa, turn my lights on. But yeah, it just seems stupid to me. So. I like sharing whenever these people fuck up, because I think, you know, the less people use them, the better it is for you.
Yeah, I'm looking at the YouTube stream. It looks.
Mitch says he uses them for weather, music, and radio. So
I think it would be nice if I was listening to the radio or whatever throughout the house, and I could just say like next song. Versus I play it on my TV or it's on my computer. If I'm walking around the house, that'd be nice just to shout at it. But
I would install something that was open source and privately controlled, like just controlled by your computer or something, but I wouldn't install, because it's recording everything you're saying for the purpose of taking a couple of instructions. So if I was Mitch, I would turn it off when I was not using it, but you know, I'm more paranoid apparently. So I'll let you move on to the next news story before we go.
I was going to say, it looks like my stream is awfully horseshit. I've had terrible trouble with the internet once I moved into this office, and I'm using the internet supplied by the building, and it's on Wi-Fi, and that didn't work worth a shit, so we had them put in range extenders, and the range extenders I put in only work on the 2.4 gigahertz service, which I can't connect to because we have 5 different extenders, and I'll probably have to bite the bullet and spend 150 on internet. Whatever.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to get your own line in.
Yeah. How about GoDaddy dropping in their real user metrics? Oh yeah, I saw that. Someone was talking about that on Facebook last week. Did I put it in the news or not?
I don't remember seeing
it. Yeah, you have to go and opt out manually. Pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I stopped using GoDaddy a long time ago now. I have like 1 domain still registered with them because I missed the renewal. And if you miss the renewal, you have to pay them again before you can transfer it. So
yeah,
whatever.
I think I have like 3 domains there, and one, I'm just too lazy to transfer them for some reason. But then I get pissed when I pay $16 to renew it versus like Namecheap that's less than 10. And it's just like
yeah, just well, I mean, next year I'll get those last ones moved. Jason says it's not news. Smart people don't use GoDaddy, and that's pretty true.
Fair point.
Pretty true.
Oh, speaking of shitty companies, Google, Mike Blumenthal found a good example of local lead gen sites infiltrating the map pack and stuff like that. Cheap auto insurance nationwide. Obviously, it's a blatant, obvious fucking. This should be manually filtered out. Like, if you have someone showing up for cheap auto insurance nationwide with not even a location.
Well, there's all those service providers. I mean, yourself and Goyden are always chatting about a particular one who sells this kind of service. Does the rounds on the Facebook groups all the time.
Yeah, but this individual definitely couldn't pull this off.
No, I wasn't expecting this was one of their clients.
Yeah,
no, I just mean it's definitely a thing.
I mean, this is a month old already, so I wonder if it's still there. Cheap auto insurance. Yeah, I mean, it's already gone for everything I can tell.
Yeah, I think Google's pretty quick when stuff makes the news, but it shouldn't take the news to tell that local's been messed up for a long time, and it's too easy to put bullshit in. I mean, the problem with it is they were being too strict before on, you know, you're based on the edge of the city, but you mainly work in the city, and all the zones and stuff like that was a pain. So they tried to make that easier, and then of course you get people take the mick and try and put themselves for cheap auto insurance in every town. It's just kind of a constant battle for them in the local listings. Is hard. I mean, I find Yelp more useful if I'm actually looking for something local than Google. I mean, Google gives me restaurants in the wrong town. You know, sometimes thinks restaurants are completely the wrong category from what they actually are, and all this kind of stuff. I don't trust the Google reviews as much because it's easier to, everyone with an Android account has a Google account, so it's easier to buy fake reviews on Google that actually stick. We've got a Yelp story later, I think, so won't go on about it too much now, but
yeah. Next up, a few weeks ago, someone asked John Mueller, "Hey, John Mueller, are repeated internal links detrimental to the Google ranking position of a website? Does Google ignore them, or does Google give minus points for every repeated internal link?" And John responded, "No, feel free to link naturally within your site."
Yeah, I mean, there's cases obviously where people have attempted to sculpt PageRank, and particularly during Matt Cutz's clampdown on PageRank sculpting, you were at a higher risk than probably at any other time for it. There's lots of people that have gone back to PageRank sculpting, and you have a hard time convincing them that it's really dumb, and that's why they're having problems with their site. So I would say don't do ridiculous manipulative things with this, but of course you should be internally linking your site all over the place because you want people to read the other articles, and presumably if they're interested in your article about red crossbows, they might be interested in your matching article about the best red arrowheads to go with it or whatever. So having an internal link there every time you mention it would make sense. So, well, maybe not 20 times in one article, but you know what I mean, a couple of times, get people to read the other article as well. It would be kind of dumb if Google thought that was a bad idea.
Yeah. Next up, Vin had an article from Ann Smarty on the 2nd of January, how to research, monitor, and optimize for questions. I don't really feel like talking about this, mainly because of Vin's telling the truth about his website versus the one we've been building. He's optimizing for content really hard, doing the TDIDF and all that junk that I don't necessarily agree with, and we've built less.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say we don't agree with it. We just don't agree that it's worth the effort because I think the
that's a better way to put
small.
it.
I
believe, generally speaking, if you have a good writer that is educated on a topic, they're going to write a great piece of content that it's very marginal, diminishing returns on what you're going to get going this far into it, when links are probably going to be way better for you. But I think all this Q&A stuff usually gets covered. Like all the content I have written for the health site, I have a really good writer. I don't ask to optimize for any of this shit. It's just done by a good writer, and maybe I'm not putting this in great context where someone that doesn't know how to write should be writing this, or if I was attempting to be a good copywriter for search, I should read this. But I don't know. My view. Maybe it's wrong.
I think it's fine. I mean, I think if you have good, well-written stuff, it's going to cover a lot of the stuff that your TF idea. Sometimes, I mean, I had to play with some of the tools. Sometimes it comes up with, like Nick Eubanks made the tool where you put in your term and it looks at all the term frequencies of the pages that are actually ranking. And sometimes there's an angle they've come up with, like say you were doing a wine article and you didn't talk about corkscrews for whatever reason, then you might find that that was an important feature and you'd focus mainly on the taste and you were missing out on the really important corkscrews. This wouldn't happen for wine, obviously, but that kind of weird connection sometimes is there that you might miss. But I just think the gains are so marginal compared for the time involved, because you're talking about really smart people spending a lot of time doing all this analysis, and that's expensive when you've got 1,000 pages to get done. It's perhaps something that you would go back and do. Maybe we'll go back and do it for our top 20 pages when we're doing 1 million visits a month or something, to try and get an extra 5%. But it's not something we would do trying to go from 0 to 100,000, because there's quicker and cheaper ways of getting to the 100,000 visits a month.
Yeah.
So So Yelp has a Yelp has been known for a while that sometimes reviews just don't show up. Now reviews you already had can disappear.
With the gist that if you pay them money, you might have some leverage.
Well, that was an allegation made before, which they strenuously denied. I will make that our official statement on the Yelp has denied,
but it keeps coming up.
It does seem to come up sometimes, but Yelp has strenuously denied. So the guy looked at almost 700 profiles and looked at the review counts before and after the update. A third of them lost at least one review, and around 7% lost a fifth of their reviews or more, and around 13% lost about 10%. So a pretty substantial number of reviews disappearing. Everyone was affected. Not all of the not recommended reviews were 5 stars. There was a mix of reviews lost. To back up my statement that I believe Yelp on their payment thing, whether or not the business was advertised on Yelp didn't matter on his data set. Whether or not you were a Yelp elite didn't matter. And it seemed to be reviews that had been on the platform for several years. So perhaps they've applied aggressively a new filter to old reviews that weren't previously filtered, whereas newer reviews perhaps have had the technology applied to them automatically so they weren't affected as much. Because I'm guessing 7 years ago or something, if you got a review on Yelp, it probably wasn't filtered or didn't have the same level of technology applied to it as today. So perhaps that's why some of these old reviews were hit first. What to do doesn't seem as helpful. He starts by saying no one knows what factors affect it. So, I think, like with all these things, you've lost 20%. Who cares? Just keep getting more of your clients to review you and build up another 20% again. People have been affected across the platform and things like that. So I think his advice not to get upset with Yelp and just keep on tracking is the right thing to do, because it's the same with Google. If Google has an update that costs you 20%, oh well, you just keep going. Keep building your site, keep doing the right things. Obviously getting customer reviews is the right thing to do. Keep encouraging them, and keep actioning consistent negatives that you're getting, and make yourself a better business, and just don't worry about the short-term updates. But I just thought it was kind of interesting because it was quite a big update in the review space. So
I need to disappear for just a second. Sorry.
That's fine. I'll do my final story, which was so Yell is a company that used to do the Yellow Pages in the UK, and so you got your big yellow book dropped through by them, and they started selling SEO services to local businesses with pretty aggressive contracts. If you ever look on UK business forums and search for Yell, you'll see a lot of extremely disgruntled business owners that were sold in a face-to-face meeting. I'll tell you something for all business owners, not just in the marketing space, but particularly in the marketing space. If you're being sold something for a couple £100 a month or a couple $100 a month, and they can afford to send a rep to spend a few hours with you to sell it, there's a lot of margin in that for them, and they're not going to be giving you very much for your 200, because it's very, very little money to a company, and it's very expensive to run a high touch in the field sales team, both from a staff turnover, training, recruitment, card, all the things that you have costs as a business. So you got to think it's really important to them to sign you up and take that really small amount of money. So it must be mostly profit. So this isn't specific to this story. It's just something you've got to think about. It's not great customer service. It's really aggressive sales and really high cost sales. You should be more confident that someone that appears to have their costs under control, doesn't have a massive sales team, has an easy sign-up process, has a clear product that you can quickly sign up for, you should be a lot less suspicious and worried about how much of the money they're wasting than if someone has all the things that you think is good customer service and they can afford to send all these people out and all this kind of thing, because that's really, really expensive. And obviously a lot of your money is going to be going towards that and profit, not actually doing anything for you. So these people had paid Yelp a lot more. They paid £26,400 plus VAT for the year. Not a huge amount for SEO if good work was being done. However, he found a bunch of really irrelevant paid links. Contacted Yelp to ask, and they were like, no, we don't pay for links. But he found that if you looked at the sites that had these links on, you know, things like a NASCAR blog linking to a waste disposal professional, the same blogs had obvious paid links to loads of other Yelp clients. He was able to check that those were Yelp clients, obviously because of what we were talking about earlier, these contractual links that they put at the bottom of sites. You know, certain providers who do services, like the lawyer one we talked about earlier, they often, you know, have powered by at the bottom. So he was able to find these clients, have a look at their backlink profiles, and see that all of this same pool of dodgy sites is linking to them. His belief is that most likely Yelp isn't providing the service. And this is where we get into speculation, and I'll make that clear at this point. I'm not saying any of these things are true. He speculates that Yelp don't provide the service in-house, so they're not necessarily aware. They probably have a contract with a provider that stipulates they can't use paid links, but it's most likely a cheap link building provider overseas who's not following the rules or has a network that they control or something like that, and they're just buying the links without Yelp being aware. So he also spoke to a Yelp insider who said no one really knows anything about it, which again is another thing I would say. You know, buying from a specialist business makes sense. You know, there's a lot of businesses not just get taken in by big companies like Yelp that, you know, it was a phone book company and they're supposed to know about SEO now. Don't get taken in by a one-man band SEO who claims to be able to do link building, content design, conversion rate optimization. You know, that kind of, you know, polymath genius, next level, top 0.1% intelligence person who would be able to have all those skills is not available for your small business to hire for $500 a month. The chances are they're good at one thing and crap at everything else, if you're lucky. So you really want to avoid people that seem to be offering services, either one person who says they can do everything, or big companies that seem to have no experience in an area deciding that that's what they do now, like all the companies that have just stuck blockchain onto their stock ticker to get a little boost from that before the latest crash and stuff like that. So he also found, though, and this is the best bit, he looked at all of their clients that he could find, and only out of, I don't know, there's like 30 on this list, and about 7 actually grew in the year. The rest had some pretty startling falls, like over half dropped by more than 50% in traffic since starting with this service. And one had a complete, well, more than one, a few had a complete wipeout of their traffic. Now, these are small businesses, so usual disclaimers, the traffic estimates on all these tools are likely terrible. The traffic isn't very much to start with. Fluctuations could easily be within that range just based on normal Google updates. Maybe small businesses that are this naive and with this poor SEO and I don't want to say dumb enough, but unsophisticated enough to get tricked into signing up from an SEO service by a phone book company. Maybe everything else about their sites was so bad in addition to this that these are people that would have been affected by Google updates anyway. But with that said, the service clearly didn't help them perform very well based on these results. So they may have performed poorly anyway, but it seems unlikely the money they spent was well spent. So, and the other one was obviously a lot of these paid links were on penalized blogs because, you know, and we saw a service like that appear on Builder Society and was quickly removed after one of the moderators reviewed it, where all the paid links they were offering were on penalized sites because It was the same chap who sells the niche edits really expensively, even though they're the same ones everyone else is selling cheaper. It was, he was selling the links at the same price as premium paid links, but they were on penalized sites, so the metrics matched up, but the traffic was always zero. Because obviously those webmasters are desperate, and you can buy the link for $20 from them, and then if you can sell it to people that think it's worth something because it's DA40 for $300, it's a nice easy markup for you. So we've seen that before. So it's not just Yelp that's got caught with this scam, assuming he's right and they did get caught by a scam and their outsourcers screwing them over. Loads of people fall victim to that kind of obvious maneuverings. So that's the end of the news. I'll let Garrett go on to his main topic.
Yeah, so I don't know how many people that watch pay attention to the drug and alcohol treatment vertical in search. But last year, things got shaken up quite a bit. Google got put under a lot of pressure for ads to start off, where a lot of these places didn't exist. They were essentially, you can make an outlandish statement saying human trafficking people to a point. It was just selling bodies into beds, and Google removed all drug and alcohol treatment ads for a while. They did put them back up, claiming they're going to do a better job at filtering. But what's happened in the last few weeks, or I should back up slightly, what Google did in organic was they defaulted SAMHSA.gov, the government substance abuse and mental health, whatever the rest stands for, website, to #1 in organic. What happened a couple of weeks ago, somebody, the website at the time was addictionhelp.today, came out of nowhere, they ranked #1 for every single motherfucking drug treatment and alcohol treatment term. And SAMHSA disappeared. Obviously, things caught wildfire in the SEO community. Everyone was talking about it. And going back to the why I asked you to remind me about FindLaw, people were talking about it in some of the Facebook groups, and I said, obviously, a lot of people got upset that someone outed addictionhelp.today because, oh, you're going to cause this guy to lose tons of money and blah, blah, blah. He's really smart. And I was just like, listen, you obviously have not been in the drug and alcohol rehab vertical ever to know that there are manual quality updates weekly. And then second off, you would know that SAMHSA was just defaulted to the #1 organic ranking for a reason, to Google's half-ass attempt to combat this. And I ended up getting into a slight argument with a guy that worked at FindLaw because he's an expert motherfucking SEO and how bad I am for outing websites. And it's like, listen, everyone.
I wonder what they're up to then.
Yeah. So, yeah. And then he finally came out and said, well, someone outed one of my sites one time, so I have a chip on my shoulder. And I was just like, fair enough, man shrug, like whatever. But anyways, so Addiction Help today, it was ranking #1 for a couple days, but then their server was massively fucked up. No one really put a definitive answer in public why they're ranking #1. And then all of a sudden, on the same IP address and the same server, another website popped up, and I forgot to put it in the show notes. Same exact type shit, out of nowhere. One of the most competitive search verticals, ranking #1 for fucking everything. And SAMHSA disappeared again. So it was kind of my suspicion. I started looking through links. There's nothing on Ahrefs, obviously, because the site literally was non-existent one day. 2 hours later, was ranking #1. So Ahrefs had no data. A lot of tools didn't have any data. I started combing through links that I could find, and they're all coming from government agencies, county agencies, state agencies, other legitimate rehab facilities that were linking to SAMHSA. So it was my suspicion that someone managed to change 301 or redirect these links, whatever, to these really shitty lead gen sites. And I shouldn't say they were really shitty. They were actually like fully built out sites. It's like someone put a bunch of money into content, knew they could get them to stick somehow. So I feel
well, it's like in the payday loans days, people would spend 3 million on a site knowing that they could do £1 million a day if they could get that page one listing, and then Google was manually penalizing them and removing them, but they knew if they could just last a few days, they would make their money back, and they would just spend the money again.
And I also brought that up, and then of course I'm the fucking asshole because I've been around long enough to watch the stuff happen, and it's like it's a fucking revolving door I always talk about, man. And it's like people just have no idea what happened last year even. But all of a sudden, in the last 9 months, I'm an SEO expert because I use Cora and Page Optimizer Pro and fucking all this other bullshit.
Yeah, there's so many noobs in this industry just carrying themselves.
How many people watching even know what Google Miami was back in 2004, or 3 or 4? Like the first quality update ever, and what that meant, and what it still means.
Is that something to do with poker?
No. But it's like I wasn't doing SEO in 2004, whenever it was. However, I still understand what happened in the history of Google updates, and I don't know. I don't mean to digress about why I get so upset in these communities, but it was really interesting to see. I see now that Samsha is back. Both those sites are gone. I wonder if Addiction Help Today is even indexed anymore. Let's see. It's still indexed, surprisingly. Site still doesn't load. Oh, now it's loading. Just really, really slow. Sites still exist. Yeah, it's interesting.
Cool. So this week's Rand of the week is Rand wading in, as usual, into topics he doesn't understand, criticizing Scientific American. There's been a study about nature versus nurture in parenting, and shock horror, your genetics are the main factor. Nurture has very limited effect on who you are and what you can achieve. Obviously, Rand is from a political leaning where that is an abominable statement to suggest that it's not all about nurture. I guess if I was a stranger person as Rand, I'd want to blame someone as well. He's outraged that no one was aggressively questioning the paper. Good old Rand wading in on all the important marketing issues of the day. I remember there was a study done at a zoo, and I forget the details now, but they threw a bunch of children's toys in to see what the baby monkeys played with, and the male monkeys preferred to push trucks around, and the female monkeys mostly picked up dolls and things like that. It's not to say all of them did. Just as with all humans, our tendencies are all individual and different. But it seems ridiculous when all we are is coded into our genes. Like the witchcraft that takes us from 2 cells to a fully grown person is all coded in those initial genes. To suggest that that isn't at least a huge factor or the main factor in who we end up being once we've grown is pretty ridiculous. And you see it in sports. How often do you see, sons of former racing drivers and things like that? Now, of course, they have the opportunity to become a racing driver because of who their father is. But for them to actually be good enough to compete at the top level, you can't nurture those skills. You can take someone who has slow reaction times over and over again to the racetrack, and they can get pretty good. But if you take someone who's got the genetics of a champion racer and nurture them instead, they obviously have a much higher line that they can get to. And it's the same. You look at sports where there's no human thing to get involved in, no politics. Look at horse racing. Look at how much money people will pay for stud with the top horses. There's stud farms that make more money than racing stables because of the value of these genes. because, you know, you breed from a champion racehorse, you've got more chance of getting a champion racehorse. You can't just take some donkey horse and nurture it really well and expect it to win the national. What's your big race over there, Garrett? Kentucky Derby, yeah. Yeah, you can't expect some donkey to win the Derby, you know, as often as if you nurture someone with the right genes. So I say someone as if the horse is going to talk to you after it wins. Thanks, Dad. But yeah, so good old Rand. I'd say stick to the marketing stuff, but he really just is terrible at that as well. Except for marketing his book about being a failure. Ironically, that's his biggest success. So I maybe have to rethink his marketing skills. Maybe he was just really, really bad at running a software company, but he's actually a really good marketer. So probably that's a fair assessment, to be honest. I think he's done really well with his personal brand, considering some of the stupid shit he says. I mean, I say stupid shit all the time, and it doesn't help me at all. So he's done really well with done really well with that, I guess. So time for the travel segment, which is our usual. We either do this at the beginning or end of the show. Because Vin isn't here, we didn't have too much to say, so we're just doing it at the end. We'll do every time. We'll just give you a really quick rundown of what we're doing, because we know not everyone watches every week, and we have new viewers all the time. Vin was moaning about, you know, the cost of coming to UK conferences and stuff, and we said, well, we'll show you how you can come to Brighton SEO in style and for free. Now, he might not actually use the points for that trip. He might use them all for some luxury family trip in the Caribbean instead, and just pay for it in cash, because obviously you get the business write-off if you buy a business trip. But the idea is just to show the steps he would have to go through to come in style, business class, or at least in a premium seat over to Brighton SEO, stay at the Hilton, which is right next to the conference. So stay in a good hotel nearby the conference in a good room, and all for free. And the first card he's applied for and obviously been accepted, a man of his stature.
Yep. I even got my welcome or my referral bonus.
There we go. Because Garrett referred him. So if you are in America and you want to play along, send Garrett a message at Garrett Pallado, Pallado on Twitter. He'll send you his code, because you'll actually get a bigger referral bonus. Vin got a full 100,000 points. The public offers less than that, and Garrett obviously gets a little tickle as well. So he's going to have to spend, I think, $1,000 to get that bonus. No annual fee. 100,000 points is more than enough for 2 nights at the Hilton, and you'll have about $100 worth of points left over afterwards. So that's his first card. Once he's ground that bonus, we'll be looking at some other ways that he can pick up some points for the travel, and there's going to be loads. There's going to be absolutely loads that we can show him to do. And there's one thing I wanted to say about travel points and miles, because there's a lot of confusion about what the value of them is and whether you should use a cashback card instead. And I realized I was talking to some people on my way back from New Zealand, and they paid for business class seats. It's a couple. It's 4 flights in business class, so it's a lot of points, because you get extra points depending on the cabin you fly. And I ended up getting 48,000 points. And we was just chatting to them, and I said, oh, you know, because I'm obsessed with points and miles, I said, who are you crediting this to? I've credited mine to Delta. And they said, oh, we'll never use the points, because we won't get enough to do anything with, and we're not going to be coming back for years. So we haven't bothered. And I said to them, you know, you should try and do it. I don't know what Delta's rules are. I know on One World you can sometimes credit them afterwards if you forgot to put your member number on or whatever. So I said to them to look into it. But Delta points have a floor of 1 cent. So with 2 of them flying, the absolute minimum number they can book a flight with Delta anywhere in the world they want to go. The minimum amount they're going to be able to knock off is $960 off of a booking. So that's the absolute floor price. But if they find some good redemptions, they could be looking at $1,800 worth if they're patient and they can hold on to them. So that's what led me to my thinking around with cashback cards versus points and miles cards. If they have an Amex or a Delta card, if they were American, and they were collecting points as well. So part of their problem was they couldn't get a redemption they wanted, so they thought the points were worthless. It turns out they were wrong about that, and they are worth something. They're worth $460 each, just at base price. But if you've got points you've collected to transfer as well, they increase the value of points you pick up for flying. So for an infrequent flyer, comparing a 2% cashback card with 1 point per dollar spend, which you notionally value at 2 cents, it's 2%. They might say, well, I prefer the cashback because cash is king. I can spend it on anything I want. But if you're at an infrequent flyer and you've got, say, they've got their 90,000 points, but they need 120,000 for 2 of them to fly first class to Tokyo or something like that, the card actually makes all of those points go from being worth 1 cent because they can't redeem them on anything. They're just going to knock them off a flight and get $900 money back on a flight. It increases their value to the 2 cents for making a good redemption if you can combine it with the other points. So you're getting your 2% back with your 1 point per mile, but you're also going to be able to increase the value of points that would have otherwise gone wasted because you can transfer your Amex points to Delta, or you can collect the Delta points directly, and they're worth 2% back to you if you're using them for a redemption. But also it increases the value of your existing points from 1 cent to 2 cents because you're going to use them for a big redemption that you actually want instead of just knocking a few dollars off of a flight. So your actual return on might be, 2.8% or something like that instead of 2% on the points and miles card. So if you're an infrequent flyer, the value of collecting transferable points that you can use to top up accounts is actually higher to you than the face value of those points, because they're increasing the value of points that you already hold that you wouldn't have used well otherwise. So hopefully that makes, have I made sense enough there, Garrett? Hopefully.
I mean, it's always a lot to take in, but yeah, it makes. Should just do like a fucking little video course on explaining everything, because I think it might be hard for people to follow week for week, especially when you miss an episode or something.
Yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll do a blog series. I am thinking though about doing some kind of business in that space because it's something I'm pretty into. Yeah, credit cards unmasked. JYH says I might have to do some kind of credit cards unmasked series or book or something, because I've learned so much along the way, and it's all business travel, and a lot of the stuff is you have to read thousands of articles, millions of forum posts. I mean, I probably haven't got to millions yet, but it'll definitely got to some absurd number just to get one tip that's useful. But that tip will make you thousands of dollars a year for the rest of your life. And I think combining all of those into some kind of resource or offering it as consulting to business owners who are trying to go from paying way too much for business class to flying really cheap on business class and getting twice as many points for it is definitely something I could add a lot to. So, but I think for the show, we'll have a nice recap blog post once he's done. Once he's done this card, we'll write a post about the Hilton, what he's done with that, what the points get him. I'll show the redemptions, and then we can refer back to those when he's on to card 2. We'll just say, oh, and check out the link to post 1 so people can read back then without having to listen and get confused. I think that'll keep it simple.
Yeah, seems fair enough to me.
Well, we can't break it out from the channel because it's all about Vin.
Vinny boy putting.
Plus, it's all about coming to an SEO conference. We're trying to convince all of you guys to come for free to Brighton SEO so that we can take you to dinner. So, but yeah, we won't. Once Vin's made it to Brighton SEO, which I guess we'll end up having him booked by the summer or something, we won't be talking about it on the show anymore. So it's going to be a very short-lived segment, but hopefully some of you guys will play along and come and join us in Brighton SEO, and we'll get to. We'll have, if enough people do it, we'll have a credit cards to Brighton dinner paid for by Reach Creator, and we'll take you all out for a bite to eat. Otherwise, we'll just take Vin for dinner. And all of you guys can keep paying for your expensive flights. Or not coming, which is even worse.
Well, I mean, what did the Honorable Goiden pay? I think we're going to Affiliate World. All of us are going to Affiliate World in Barcelona in July. and we nabbed an excellent deal from Minneapolis to Paris and then a flight to Barcelona. Round trip was just under $3,500 for Delta One suite. So those types of things are not unobtainable with points if you use your card wisely and you save up the points. You get a nice business class flight for free to a cool conference, and obviously, if you're going to Brighton and you're in a position where you can't be flying business class, I mean, you could. This what we're outlining here is enough points to get there in a nice economy seat, window seat, and get the hotel for free. And all you really got to worry about is your booze money at that point. Or if you like to eat, you should probably eat. But
yeah, I mean that's why we picked Brighton SEO, because it's like it's $150 to get the conference tickets. So for those of you on a budget, if you play along with this strategy, you're going to not really spend very much money in addition as well. So that's why we picked Brighton SEO. But yeah, Affiliate World Europe is going to be super cool. Loads of people go. People have been telling us to go now for like 4 years to Affiliate World. We kept meaning to go, but Garrett's schedule's been having a family and all that kind of stuff, and I've been doing some similar stuff, looking to purchase a house next year after having sold my last one and been renting for a few years now, just for convenience because of where we wanted to live. We couldn't find somewhere we wanted to buy. Been renting for a little while now. I'm going to be joining Garrett back on the back with the noose around my neck. So lots of stuff's been going on our end. So we just kept the dates kept not working out. But yeah, it's less than rent though. So, but yeah, I mean, so that's going to be a really good conference. So if any of you guys can make it along to that, that'll be cool to see you there. We're doing PubCon in Miami. Now that's a really interesting one on points and miles, because just 21,500 Delta miles plus $7 or something like that is a first class flight from the East Coast cities like Philadelphia and New York down to Fort Lauderdale, which is where the conference is. I got the flight back up to the East Coast for 15,000 American Airlines points. So that's well within the scope of credit card bonus covering both of those flights. I think the Amex Gold for the US now is 60,000 points, or at least 40,000 anyway.
I got 50 on my business
got
card.
50,
yeah.
So for a business, you've got to spend $5,000 in your business, which isn't much for business expenses. Pay a few of your PayPal suppliers.
Over 3 months,
yeah, over 3 months. I mean, pay for your advertising on Facebook. And you collect the 5,000 points on the spend too. So you end up with 55,000, and just 36,500 was enough for a return first class flight from the northern East Coast cities down to the conference. So if you're within the US trying to go to US conferences for free, the stuff that we're sharing is going to work out super well. The Hilton there was a bit pricier, so you wouldn't have been able to stay probably the whole time for free at the Marina Hilton. But you definitely would have got one of your nights for free for that bonus as well, which is still a $240 return on your $1,000 spend on the card. So you're getting 24% cash back on that free night at the Marina Hilton. So, and you're only paying for one night then for the conference, and your flight's free from the Delta bonus on the Amex Gold. So you can play this game inside the US. If you don't want to come for your free dinner in Brighton, you can get to these US conferences too. And I'll try and share some, when we do the blog posts, I'll share some similar examples for US SEO conferences, because I want to help as many people. Because when we were starting, it was really expensive for us to get to conferences. We weren't doing the points and miles then. I hadn't gone through the learning experience needed to make it work. I want to help you guys that are where we were 5 years ago, struggling to get to conferences, needing to go to them to get business and to meet people and to learn, but not being able to go to all the ones we wanted to go to. Show you guys how you can get there before you can pay for cash for them, and get there with points and miles, and come join us at some conferences. And we almost always have a free dinner, so you'll be able to come out for us one night as well. If it's one of the Vegas ones, Garrett always lays on a limo and we go to Gordon Bierce and have a good feast there.
Yeah, it's a fun time. No sales, just hanging out, so, whatever.
Yeah, so we'll look after you for some and have some fun at one of the conferences if you make it along. Yeah, it'd be super cool. If some of you are able to make it that wouldn't have been able to make it otherwise.
For sure.
So yeah, sorry for the long answer, but I just, since it was in the chat, I wanted to answer why this is on the show. Yes, I am going to break all of my points and miles content out into something else. I'm just playing around with how to do it. So the case study is going to be on the show probably through till March. We'll be finished with all of Vin's strategy by then. He'll just be doing, and then we'll probably have like a recap show where we show him in Brighton or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it will be off the show. But it's all about SEO conferences and getting you guys there, so it'll be on the show for a little bit longer. And then we've had a little Twitter exchange with one of our regulars at the Shit SEO, trying to decide what the new segment's going to be when this one's gone. And so far, his main suggestion was herpes. So if you want to suggest a new, slightly off topic but on topic segment, because we do like to have one on the show, please do send me some tweets with better suggestions, and then from sort of March onwards we'll have a different segment where we try and help you guys out with something else somewhat SEO related.
Yeah. Alrighty then. Yeah, we'll be back next week, or yeah, we'll be back next week, next Thursday, with an actual up-to-date show. Stuff that's not a month old, and yeah,
and we'll have Vin back without the bed icon. Thanks for joining us, everyone. This has been SEO Unmasked.
Yep. See you next week. Thanks for joining us.